Okay, so we are continuing Hilchos Deios, but I was thinking about it more. We did start to do the halachos of Hilchos Deios, but then we noticed that he introduced it as like the correct course for the one who does not do lo sisna esachlicha b'levavecha. It's a weird way to introduce a mitzvah, and that's why we didn't do the sefer mitzvos first, because he brought it as the thing you should do if instead of harboring hatred. So let's read the sefer mitzvos on the Hilchos Deios, and then go back and look at the halachos, and then try to see like his presentation of it. Like I can't think of another case where the Rambam introduces a mitzvah like agav oreche in the context of another mitzvah, and then goes back and then presents it. Weird. That's all I'm gonna say. Okay, so let's read this. Reich Hey in the mitzvah of say. The mitzvah.
I feel like maybe he should was present it first.
Yeah.
And then like from there gone into
lo sisna.
Yeah.
Yes, that would have made sense. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Okay. The mitzvah, unless there's a reason why lo sisna. No, I can see why lo sisna has to be on the tails of ahava.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I mean, it's not like it has to be one or the other, but
yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. The mitzvah hachamesh u'masayim hatzivui shnitzavinu lemachos be'ose avera obamisha zomim lasos. That's an interesting thing. So the mitzvah, we're commanded to rebuke the one who does an avera, or the one who plots to do it. Right. So if you see someone intending to do it, ulahazhiro al kach b'devarim, and to warn him about it verbally, ulahochika, and to rebuke him. I don't know what the difference is between lahazhir and lahochiach.
Maybe hazir is punishment.
Well, you mean to tell him about the punishment?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking that lahazhir definitely involves telling him that it is after, and then lahochiach might be, and that can include the punishment, but then lahochiach might be to like explain to him why this is not good to do, or to like convince him to not do it. Yeah. Ve'in adam mimenu rashai lomar ani lo echata v'im echata zulasi ze'inyano imelo kav. Wow, never seen this before. That is exactly what I say. Whoops. Yeah, no. No person. I don't know why it says mimenu. No person is permitted to say, "I'm not going to sin," and if this guy sins, that's between him and God. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, by the way, there's a dark undercurrent of this entire mitzvah, which is the reality that we face that we don't do this mitzvah. And it's always a question of like, why don't we do it? Like when we read with the halachos today, we're going to see no one does this. From what? Yeah, right. So I definitely think as a line in Arrested Development says is why do you think your marriage isn't working? I don't want to blame 9/11, but it certainly didn't help. So like I don't want to blame America because I think that this really originated beforehand. I think this stems from Gullus, but America specifically, I think, makes it worse. Yeah, but I have my own theory, but we'll first go over what the halachos are and then we'll go over my theory. Okay, so Zen neged Torah. That's against the Torah. Oh, is he doing this to us now? Yeah. Ella anu mitzuvim shelo navor v'lo naniach lezulasenu mi'umasenu lavor. We are commanded to not transgress and to not allow any one of our nations to not transgress. To not allow them to transgress. I mean, sorry. Yeah, and
that's the bad.
Yeah, right. This is really included in the Hilchos Deios. Like if you saw someone about to harm themselves, like you would, and you care about them, then you would stop them. So like if it was really real to you that this is like a harm of doing averos and stuff, then you would naturally do it. No, I'm not saying you don't need the mitzvah. I'm saying that like it's a kiyum in the Hilchos Deios.
Why do you need the mitzvah?
Because you need the mitzvah. People wouldn't do it otherwise. Meaning, just like you need, why don't you have the Hilchos Deios be the only mitzvah and not have tzedakah and not have, because people need specific structures and commandments. Yeah. Okay. So then, umi shezomim lavor chova al kol adam lohochicho ulamano. And someone who plots to transgress, there's an obligation upon every person to rebuke him and to prevent him, to detain him. Even though there's not been substantiated, I guess verified, established about him, a testimony that makes him liable for punishment. So in other words, even if he can't be convicted in a court of law, if you know that the guy did the avera, like you don't wait for the legal system to make it a halachic reality, you go and you rebuke him. You should surely rebuke your member of your nation. That's a weird verb. Nisraim, you know what that means? Nisraim is to. It does come from that, right? That shorish. I think it is a verb to complain. Okay, or like to decry maybe would be a better one. It's just a weird verb to decry over one another if they harm each other. In other words, I think this is if it's not an avera, but you cause harm to someone, then you also have to like speak out against it. The all nitur lo v'nafsho lo chet, and not to hold a grudge and reckon it for him as a chet. This I think is the this is what we did yesterday. I mean, I think if someone wrongs you, you should not hold a grudge and just make it a fate, but rather you should rebuke him. You know, Ella needs to you have to, again, complain is how I would usually translate it against him, but dvarim with words, so that nothing remains in the heart. So that's, you know, this is a chet bin adam lamakom. I should have done the Sefer Mitzvot a long time ago, the entire thing, because you know I've read the halachos in the Mishnah Torah so many times on this, and you just get a different perspective from the Sefer Mitzvos. You know, I'm glad we made this our practice to do this before each of the mitzvos of the Mishnah Torah. It's like it's embarrassing that I've never read the Mitzvah of Tochachah and the Sefer Mitzvos. You know, yes. Velachon Sifra. Oh, so what the reason I'm saying that here is like that is literally like just a parish on the goal of get it all out of your heart.
Yeah.
You know, get it out into words, because words are one step closer to resolution and dealing with it in a mature way instead of keeping it in your heart. Yeah.
If it's in your heart, no one else can deal with it.
Yeah, right. And probably you're not going to deal with it, you know?
Yeah.
That's like the premise of talk therapy, you know, like, you know, just the act of verbalizing it itself makes it into something you can actually deal with, you know. Velachon Sifra, minayin im hochachto afilu arba'a v'chamisha pa'amim chazor u'v'hocheach. How do you know that if you rebuke him even 4 or 5 times, you have to go back and rebuke again? Tamlomar, as it says, hocheach tochiach, which the drasha is repeatedly rebuking, right? It's like do it again and again. Yachol afatam mochicho upanav mishtanos. You might think that you can rebuke him and his face will change, meaning he'll be embarrassed, right? Like he'll blanch or whatever, right? Or yeah.
I like that plastic surgery.
No. Tamalomar. Why wait? Tamalomar. That was a road sign joke from the rafting trip. There was a giant billboard that just had this overly eager doctor. Plastic surgery. Why wait? Why wait 1 more second is what it said. Why wait 1 more second? I was like, and I was thinking about it, and I was thinking like, who is that targeted at? Probably people who like need to hear that in order to justify doing it. It was just like it was such a like in your face, like pull over the side of the road and get like plastic surgery right now. Yeah. Anyway, so you might think that you should rebuke him and like embarrass him. I think Panim Mishtanos is like just not euphemism, an idiom for like you know, being embarrassed. Tamlomar, the pasuk says, you should not embarrass him. So that's also interesting havamina, right? That you should embarrass him. And we'll see that that does play out in one category when we do the halachos, that there is a category of tochachah where you should publicly embarrass someone, you know, which is also not done nowadays.
No.
Yeah. Ukvar beru chachamim shemitzvah zo chova al kol adam afilu min hakatan lagadol. Wow. So the chachamim made clear that this mitzvah is an obligation on every person, even from I assume this is like a literal katan, like a minor to an adult, right? Not just like someone who's katan b'chachma. Yeah. Then what would the chiddush be? I mean, you could say that that's the chiddush, but you're obligated to rebuke. Does the footnote say? Min hakatan b'mala. Oh, never mind. He says exactly. Yeah. He says katan b'mala legadol b'mala. V'tafin shai rato letargem min ha-nikla lenechbad. Okay, so it could be like nikla means like someone who's like degraded in society. Yeah. Okay. Because I was going to say like, where would that come from? The katan and chayav. So
I think in Gemara, in a Hakol,
yeah,
gadol and katan is in terms of how much money you have.
Ah, interesting. Yeah, that would make sense for the nikla and nechbad. And he says, "Vafilu kolel v'zulzal al yirakev al yistalik milhochiach ad asher yuka. Even if, I think this is even if the guy who you're rebuking curses and degrades you, don't slack off and don't cease rebuking him until he hits you. And that we're going to see when we read the halachos. That's why I said that no one does this anymore. Like the people who pass on Torah tעשה. V'amru, and they say ad haka until striking. And this mitzvah has conditions and laws that are spelled out in various places scattered in the Talmud. Yeah. Okay. It's intense. It's going to get more intense. You want to read the minyan mitzvos?
Yeah.
Well, I read the commentaries. I think it's just going to be, if I remember correctly. Oh, so it just says it's the chotem. That is interesting, right? This one just says lahochia. Hachote. Okay, fine. So in the commentaries it says lahochia, to rebuke. Yeah. Okay, so let's look at the halachos now. Let me just find the page. We are on halacha in Perek Vav halacha Zayin 2. Nope, Zayin 1, right? Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah, let's go back to Vav. Yeah. So this is in the context of when one person sins against the other, lo yistamenu v'yishtag. Oh, can I mention something that has nothing? Oh, I got to mention something that has nothing to do with anything. And then the thing I mentioned that I was going to mention. So the thing that has nothing to do with anything. I just noticed the Rambam's the editor of the Rambam here puts the Mitzvah of Tochachah heading above this halacha, even though this is midway through right? So the thing I want to mention is, has anyone tried reading Halachic Mind? Hard, right?
I'm tired.
Yeah, I've tried a couple times, and some parts I get, some parts I don't. So a Rambam scholar I know just posted as a Facebook status. He says the Rav in the essay did not make the chapter divisions. Okay, people in the Rambam didn't. So this Rambam scholar said, here's how I would divide it, and he divides the whole thing with headings. So if you ever, halachic mind, so if you ever are reading it again, try to remember that I said this to you, and I'll send this to you because I feel like it would help, because that just having getting your bearings could be useful, Yeah. And then the thing I said I was gonna do, which I'll do it now. I quoted a wrong Rambam when we were talking about derech, and I mentioned that the derech of a person in Hilchos Tshuva, like a person could choose the derech hatov lios tzaddik and derech hara lios rasha, and I quoted wrong Yesodei Torah about the elements, and it was okay, but it wasn't the one I was looking for. The one I was looking for, what was it? It was in Yesodei Torah. Hold on. I quoted 4:2 about the derech ha'esh and the derech ha'mayim, but what I wanted to quote was, hold on. Should look where this was. Yeah. It was the one, right? It was at the end of Perek Gimel. So he says, this is Gimel Yud Aleph. Arba'a gufos ha'elu, these 4 bodies, and this is talking about the elemental bodies. Einan balei nefesh, they do not have souls. The einan yodi and v'lo makirin, they don't have knowledge, and they don't have discernment. Ela kagufim mesim, they're like inanimate bodies. V'yesh l'chol echad echad mehen minhag she'eno yoda'o v'lo masigo v'eno yachal l'shanoso. That's the line I was looking for. That each one has a minhag that it doesn't know and doesn't apprehend and cannot change. So that was what I was saying is in contrast to our minhagim, which the Rambam mentioned at the beginning of Perek Vav. We are noheg, so the elements are noheg based on internal minhagim that are programmed, but they don't know and can't change. We are programmed by the minhagim of our Medina and our social group, but we can change them. And Bechira is the ultimate way to change the derech in order to change the minhag, if that means leaving your society also. That was the unifying picture there. Yeah, so it's much more explicit Rambam than what I had before. Yeah, okay. Sorry for the interruption. Back to this. When one person sins against another, he shouldn't muzzle himself and be silent. Like it says by the wicked. Avshalom didn't speak with Amnon for bad or for good because Avshalom hated Amnon. This is weird, by the way. When there is a level of hatred with someone where you do want to say bad things to them, but then there's a level of hatred where you just want zero interaction. It's interesting that is the greater hatred.
Is that always true? That it's the greater?
I don't know. Certainly the way the halakha is structured, right? I mean, what I was explaining before, that like it's when you get to that point where you just don't want to have anything to do with this person, just like cut them out of your life. It could be that that's not the stronger hatred. It could be that that's just when the mitzvah kicks in, because it could be that if you hate them but are like speaking ill of them, at least there's a connection there, and there's hope that that's going to like blossom into a healthy dialogue. Blossom is the wrong word. Craft into a healthy dialogue, but if you're not talking at all, you just like cut them out of your life, then that's then there's no hope of a dialogue. So that's when the Torah steps in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, you have cases where people like haven't spoken to each other in 30 years, but like you don't have cases where, no, you don't have cases, but when people are like fighting for a long time, they can resolve their conflict.
Right. I mean, I've mentioned this before. Maybe not everyone, but that's one of the in the Chang family legacy. My great aunt Betty and great aunt Mary were twins, and they fought over a boyfriend when they were 16, and they never spoke for the rest of their lives until they're like, and they died in their like late 80s or early 90s. Yeah, that's crazy, right? Yeah, and they're twins. Like I feel like, like I don't know. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
This is more of a general question about these mitzvos, because we're getting into this category.
Sure.
But so I guess I can sort of infer the answer.
Yeah.
But if the whole purpose of the Torah is big thing, but it's like iyun,
yeah,
stuff like that. So how does fostering good relationships?
That's a good question. So let me give an al regal achas answer, and then if we have time, which we may have tomorrow, if we finish this parak, then I'll see if I can find where the Rambam gives the answer, because I think he gives it in the Morning Buchan, if not here also. But the al regal achas answer is that that the Torah is not just designed to perfect you. The Torah is designed to create a society in which all Jews, but all humankind, can pursue Yiddias Hashem together. So maintaining peaceable relationships among members of that society, so they can all work towards that one common end, facilitates that goal of society-wide Yiddias Hashem. And furthermore, you as an individual, if you are entangled in social conflicts, or if you are being victimized by enemies, or if you are wronging people, because of something, that's going to be an obstacle for you as well that you have to work out, whether because it's going to actually interfere with your life, or because of the mitzvos that caused it, or because of the fact that the Rambam says all interpersonal harm comes from privation of knowledge, from ignorance. And so Yiddias Hashem is the cure for all ills. So the process of it doesn't sound like this, but the process of reconciling with another human being ought to be framed as part of the pursuit of Yiddias Hashem itself, because you are gaining knowledge of yourself and of the other person, and of Mishlaic strategies for how to work stuff out. But that is part of your Yiddias Hashem as well. So I guess those three things: society, it creates a society of Yiddias Hashem. It lack of peace between people is going to interfere with your ability to pursue Yiddias Hashem, and then the process of seeking peace is a process of gaining knowledge. That's what I'd say for now. Yeah, that was a good question though. Right, connecting it back to Parak Gimel.
Yes.
Okay, Ella mitzvah alav, rather is a mitzvah upon him. See, this is where he introduces the mitzvah. It is a mitzvah upon him, lahodio, to make known to him, velomar lo, and to say to him, lama asisa li kaf v'kaf, why did you do such and such to me? Velama chatasa li b'dvar pleni, and why did you sin against me in such and such a manner? Shneimar, hocheach tochachah mitzvah lo asisa alav chet, as it says, you shall surely rebuke your member of your nation, and you should not bear sin upon for yourself, which he does not explain yet. And if he goes and asks for forgiveness, he needs to forgive him. Okay, and the forgiver should not be cruel. As it says, this is a question I used to get all the time in high school. Are you obligated to forgive someone when they ask for forgiveness? What would you say?
Well, is this sorry?
Sorry, right, yeah.
Which is weird.
Yeah, it is weird, right?
What does that mean? Sorry.
Yeah, what do you mean sorry? And also, lo yiheh mochav sorry.
Mhm.
He shouldn't be cruel, you know?
What does that
Yeah, what does sorry mean also? Yeah.
like, don't be cruel and not be mocharim, or don't be cruel and want to be mocharim?
Oh, I think it means don't be cruel. It's a good question. I thought it meant don't be cruel by not being mochel him, but you could say ha-mochel. Yeah, that's true. That's a good point, right? Like accept your apology, you know, like that kind of thing. Like
That's what I
yeah, right. That's a good question. I mean, I think from the fact that he's going to say later on, or said earlier on, no, later on Hilchos Tshuva when he's talking about being Amul Chavero, he says there you should be mochel with a leiv shalem and a nefesh chafetza. So I feel like achzari is the opposite of that. Like you can forgive, but there's like a wholehearted forgiveness, and then there's a reserved grudge holding forgiveness, where you just like forgive the person to get them off your back. You know, like forcing siblings to apologize and like say you're sorry, hug your brother. You know, like that kind of thing. You know, yeah. I was gonna say one more thing. Yeah, it's still an open question in my mind. I don't know if you can force someone to forgive. I don't think you could like legally obligate someone to forgive someone, like, you know. So I see it in the lashon that it sounds like it, but like I just don't think you can. I don't think you can, you know. So the most halakha can do is like show you how forgiveness is a good thing and like push you to forgive. I don't think you could halakhically obligate someone to forgive. Like someone murders your whole family, like can you really just say like, oh yeah, you're obligated to forgive them? Like I don't know if that does anything.
And also the fact that he says if you don't, you're an oxar. Like, why does he have to say that?
Well, you're taking one side of Chaim's view, right?
Yeah.
You're saying if you don't, then you're an oxar.
Well, I think also, I mean, right, it does say tzaraf, which is like unclear, and then it says gives the other side.
Well, no, but the deal is on the other side. I'm saying is lo yihi hamochel achzari. Yeah. Now you could say a kal v'chomer from that if the guy who actually does forgive should not be an achzari, then certainly if your achzari prevents you from forgiving. And then there is the statement in Hilchos Tshuva, I think it's in Hilchos Tshuva, where he says if someone, with the whole procedure of like going to, so case is you sin against someone and then you do tshuva, so you go up to them and try to appease them. If they don't accept your mechila, then you bring a group of 3 of their friends and you do it again, or you apologize again. If that doesn't work, you bring a second group of 3 friends. If that doesn't work, you bring a third group of 3 friends. So you're going 4 times. And then at that point, if you don't forgive, then you, the offender, go on your way, and the other guy is the choteh, is what the Rambam says. Yeah. Now, even that, I don't think disproves my theory. The guy could be a choteh. I just don't like. Right. I mean, like the way I'm taking it. Again, I'm not saying that the other side is wrong. I'm just saying like my intuition is that you are in the, like, in other words, if you can't bring yourself to accept the fact that people make mistakes, and clearly this guy is like very remorseful, and I always like to emphasize also like what's the deal with the 3 friends and the 3 groups of 3 friends?
It's a social pressure.
So how though?
They'll see that he's remorseful,
Mm-hmm.
and so if you're not forgiving him despite that fact, then that reflects poorly on you.
Right. In other words, it's not just some social pressure. If I go over to the 3 friends of the guy who I offended, and I'm going to have to convince them that I actually am sincere, and they're going to have to want to reconcile. And if I do that 3 times with 3 different groups of friends and it still doesn't work, that does reflect a hate in you, in the sense that you've got some sort of like irrational thing. Now I still, I see the fact that he uses the word choteh seems to be it's a hate. I'm just saying I still don't think, like, maybe this guy's stuck on it. I still don't see how you can just say you're obligated to have forgiveness. You were certainly encouraged to work on it, and you're in an error. Like, it's bad that you're doing this. But like to say you're chayav limchol, I just don't see how that can happen. Yeah.
So I don't know what he says Shua, but here it doesn't specifically sound like the guy's remorseful. It sounds like it could be the guy's like, hey, I killed your whole family. Sorry.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
And then,
yeah. This is you have to ish leish, right? Interpersonal. Yeah.
I cut off your arm. Sorry.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And then does the guy have to Is that fall under the purview of this halacha?
Right.
Well,
I mean,
I don't know if that falls under the impact of mental health. Like, I don't know if that's considered actually.
of saying sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Right in your case, but like, right in simple ways, like,
right. I mean, in Hilchos,
apologize to your brother, like,
right.
I don't know.
In
That's
Hilchos Tshuva, he uses the lashon of like, I think he's ratza, he's pious, like to actually appease the guy. Here he's saying bikesh mino limcholo, which is a much lower bar. Bikesh mino limcholo, like that is not even saying anything about the sincerity of the guy who offended.
It's not
Right. Yeah.
It's not, right. It's not saying that, saying I'm sorry, and then
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It is interesting that two. We really should do both in conjunction, but yeah.
Maybe like from a Deus perspective, like your Deus should be such that if a person does do something against you, then if the guy is making overtures in some way, you should be like at a point where you can like accept that.
Mm-hmm. Right. Meaning Rambam is speaking to the guy who is offended and speaking Hilchos Deios framework.
Yeah.
So he's not going into the procedure for how this guy does tshuva for his hate. That's a Hilchos tshuva thing. But from your framework, this is what you should do. You should forgive him and not be an achzari, which is different day. Yeah. Okay. Should we go on?
Yeah.
Haro es chavero shechata. So this is new now. One who sees his friend who sinned, past tense, or he's going on a bad path, which does not seem to be connected to Avera specifically. Mitzvah lahachzir lemutav. It is a mitzvah to return him to the good. Anyone know the difference between mutav and tov is? Never quite got the difference. Turn to the mutav. Ulahodio shehu chote al atzmo b'masav harayim. You have to mishlekely rebuke him, right? Make known to him that he's sinning against himself with his bad actions. Shneimar hocheh tochias ezamisacha. Right, not sinning against God. I mean, he might be sinning against God also, but he's harming himself, right? Okay.
It's on the whole thing, not the last thing.
Yeah, on the whole thing. Yeah. Okay. We good?
Mm-hmm.
Hamochiach es chavero. So now he gets into the details, and these are the conditions I think he was referring to in the Sefer Mitzvos. One who rebukes his friend, whether it is in interpersonal matters or between man and God, he needs to rebuke him privately. And he needs to speak to him pleasantly and gently. Viodio, or softly, I guess. Viodio, and informed him, for your own good, right? You should tell him that it's only for his own good, and to bring him into Olam Haba. Yeah. It's also interesting also, right? Was it? Yeah, I know. Yeah, that was the joke. Yeah, it's interesting it says to bring him to Olam Haba, because this is not, yes, true, I don't know, maybe I'm being too medactic here. It affects his Olam Haba, but is this like, is your being brought into Olam Haba contingent on you doing the hate? Like, like if it's not inaccuracies, then...
Right, I mean, you could be just saying like, this affects your Olam Haba.
Right, yeah, that's the easier explanation, which I'm fine with. Yeah, l'havio, yeah. Yeah, I guess he does use that lashon with the av and the rav, right? Your father brought you into this world. That's literally like the event of bringing, but then your rav who teaches you brings you into Olam Haba. That doesn't mean that every single idea that the rav teaches you is one of the ikarim, but it means that like it gets you there. Yeah. Im kibo mimeno mutav. If he accepts the rebuke, great. Vim lav, and if not, yochiach pam shnia ushlishis. He should rebuke him the second and third time. He is obligated to continually rebuke him. And here's the line: Ad shiakehu hachota, until the right. Then he'll stop sinning until the chote hits him. V'yomar lo eini shomea, and says, "I'm not going to listen." Right. And if he's mute, then you're in trouble. I think it's a machlokas in the Gemara whether you have to rebuke until he says he's going to hit you, or until he actually hits you. So I think it's like davka until he hits you. Okay. I don't know how to read the sentence, by the way. I'm just going to say that at the outset. Anyone who it is possible for him to rebuke, and he doesn't rebuke, who nitpas ba'avon elu kulan. He is seized up in the avon of all of them, of these people, all of them. That is possible for him to rebuke them. I just don't know what that last thing. I feel like the sentence would have been complete without that. Because it makes that by adding that last part. In other words, like, if you didn't have that last part, after Allah, it sounds like he's saying, let's say I see my fellow Jew sinning, and I could rebuke him and I don't. Sounds like I become like nitfas in that guy's avon, like I'm partaking of that avon somehow, right? Is that?
Yeah.
But then nitfas avon elu kulam. So is the elu kulam she'efshar lo l'malchus behem? One way to read it is I'm caught up in the avon of people who it is possible to rebuke and don't.
I think so.
Or is he? And the other way to say it is he's just repeating the initial condition, which wouldn't make any sense because he already started off after biyad l'malchus.
I think it's the latter. Let's say I see you, and you all doing embarrass, and I don't rebuke any of you, and like I could have gotten a sign change, but not you two.
Right.
Then I'm partly responsible for what the sign is doing because I didn't.
For what the time is doing.
Yeah, because I could have rebuked him and it would have changed him, and so the fact that
that's a good reading.
Yeah, so the fact that I didn't is I'm responsible for him still doing that.
Right.
When you get that without the complaint that that's all in front of?
No,
No.
because he's saying what you would get is
You
here.
say if I'm not
Here.
trying to stop you, if I'm not like fighting the problem, then I'm part of the problem. That's like the way that
We were reading it first.
yeah, that's the way that you read it if it doesn't say that. But that's not what it's saying. It's saying if you could have changed someone's behavior and by rebuking them and you didn't do that, then in a sense you're responsible for that continued bad behavior. And that's why you're only part of it.
Of the person who you could have changed, even though there are
Yeah.
I was thinking about it now, you're wondering that you restart the same way without
Yeah, and I don't know if I'm bothered by that. It's just that it does make it clear that that's what he's gonna. That's what he's saying. Meaning, in other words, like this. Let's put it this way. Meaning, you could put it. Is like designating a category for you, the rebuker. Either I am a person who can rebuke, or I'm not. But now what this is saying is vis-a-vis anyone, any particular person who you could have rebuked. If you don't do it, then you're nitfas in that other one.
Meaning if we could have rebuked them successfully.
Yeah, right. As opposed to saying like say for example, like there are people. It is a common excuse of like I'm not in a leadership position. Like I'm not. It's not my position to say. Well that was how I would have read it without that those last four words. But if we're saying no, you got to look at it on a case by case basis, then maybe that's a different thing. I don't know for sure, but yeah. You have a no. Okay. All right. Class 1. One who rebukes his friend at first. Lo yidaber lo kashos. Yeah.
Isn't that what we just said in the last paragraph?
We haven't finished reading the sentence yet. Ad shiach limeno. Until he embarrasses him. Right? This is a new point. Shenemar lo sisa alav chet. This is introducing a new lo tase. Right? That you cannot bear sin for him. I included it in the packet. We'll read it in a second. I actually want to go through all this first because this is in the halachos of or should we read it first? All right, fine. Let's read it first. All right. Let's look at the here. Mati, another packet. Coming right up. We're doing both.
Yeah.
So this is now on the third page, I think. Shin Gimel. Yeah. Mitzvah hashalosh me'os, the 303rd mitzvah. Hazhara she was shelo lavayish zezeh, not to embarrass each other. Well, when the Rambam gives me the Mishnah Torah, and I get embarrassed when I see all the mitzvos that I'm not knowing, I'm just, Ba'avun zeh hu shekorin also malvin pnei chavero barabim. I think he says barabim.
Yeah.
That's a specific category, malvin pnei chavero, but you should say this is what's called malvin pnei chavero.
Yeah.
Right? So that's two levels, right? There's malvin pnei chavero and malvin pnei chavero barabim.
In the meaning of mitzvahs, doesn't say rabim.
Right, yeah. This is what is called embarrassing someone in public. Okay. And as it says, you shall surely rebuke your fellow and not bear a sin. And in Sifra it says, how do you know that if you rebuke him even 4 or 5 times, then you have to go back and rebuke him again? we've read this before. Okay, all right. I got deja vu, but it's like literally we read it just a little while ago. Tamlar hocheach tochiach. Yacha akila ad mochicho upanu mishtanos. Tamlamar v'lotita lapet. Okay, fine. Right, so that was that we read. About pshata kasuv harihu mazhir shelo tachshov lo avon bilvad v'tazkirehu. Whoa. Oh, right. Bill delete that. Yeah. That's not a dollar. That's the kind of mistake that gets typos made. But the pshat of the pasuk, why is he giving us pshat here? Pshat of the pasuk is harihu mazhir. You should warn him shelo tachshov lo avon belibacha, so that you should not. Obviously, you shouldn't reckon for him an avon belibacha in your heart, v'tazkirehu, and remind him of it. What? I don't know if I'm reading that correctly.
Oh, the lotita alav chet is that you in the pshat of the pasuk is that you shouldn't just like is saying don't just reckon it in your heart, but rather you should tell him about it.
Uh-huh.
I think that the v'tazkirehu is saying the reverse.
Uh-huh.
Saying don't
Oh, you should mention it.
He's saying don't just talk to lo avon believka. Yeah. But rather you should be tester.
I hear. Let me just I'm just looking at the about.org translation really quickly and just see if that's going to help here. Yeah, apparently they do. I didn't know that until just now. The simple meaning of the verse, however, is to warn you that you should not think of him about this. You should not think of him about the sin in your heart and continue to remember it. I like your shot better. Yeah. Okay. Fine. Okay. All right. Back to Deos. Okay. So now he says. So you
one in the meme it says Shalom lahabim pnei adam Yisrael.
Okay. And in the beginning of Deos, I think it just says Shalom lahabim Panim. Yeah. Good. Okay. So you might think that you can rebuke him and his face will change. And Pasuk says you shouldn't embarrass him. From here, it is also for a person to embarrass a Jew, but koshkein barabim, and koshkein in public. So he is saying like he is differentiating, right? Okay. Even though one who embarrasses his friend does not get malchus, avon gadolhu, it is a big avon. Kach amru chachamim, as the chachamim said, hamalbin pnei chaver barabim, one who embarrasses his fellow in public, ein lo chelek l'olam haba. He has no chelek l'olam haba. Can we stop and just like analyze that for a little while? That's said a lot, right? How does that work? Especially according to the Rambam, if your olam haba is dependent on your knowledge. So how does being malbim pnei chaver barabim affect your chelek in olam haba? Like what? It makes you forget Yedias Hashem and Yichud Hashem? Like, and I realize this is a question on the Rambam in general about how actions can affect your olam haba, but we're not going to try to come up with a theory for all the Rambam, but you know.
Yeah. Well, when you like publicly shame someone like to like an extreme extent, such that their face like turns white, you're really like not treating the person as a person.
Mm-hmm.
You're like like you're not recognizing the reality of the other person's existence as you,
right?
In like a sort of way that like I don't know. Well, that's the type.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that the challenge in answering this question is going to be like how this is different than any bein adam l'chavero sin. You know, like if you could victimize them in other ways that dehumanize them. You know.
Yeah, but it's just like totally destroying them socially.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, the interesting thing is that even if it's not socially, even if it's in private, then it still is usher. I mean, I know there's always one person, you know, if it's
the barabim.
Oh, the Robin, yeah, you're right. It's Robin. That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's gonna be along those lines, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's still hard though.
Yeah. Whereas let's say if you like steal someone or steal from someone.
Yeah.
I'm not a kidnapper. Yeah, really, I'm not a kidnapper.
Okay.
Like, so if you steal from someone, then I'm sorry.
Okay. Go on. Yeah.
If you steal from someone, then you're not what then, you are like violating their possessions, but you're not like it's not that yeah, I guess it has to do with like the magnitude of the way that it affects a person.
Okay, so the test case will be, and I actually don't remember the answer to this question. If you murder someone, do you lose your Chelek Olam Haba? And I'm pretty sure the answer is no.
Oh,
Right? That would be a problem, right?
yeah.
Let's see. Nope, you do. Well, it says Shofrei Damim. Now, does that mean like
That's
one act of Shfichus Damim make you lose your Chelek Olam Haba, or it means like if you're like a hitman or a serial killer,
I would imagine it's even once.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so then that works.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because that would have been a problem. Okay. Therefore, a person needs to be careful with this. Not to shame his friend in public. Bein katan bein gadol, whether now here I feel like is a real question. Does he mean a minor or an adult? Or does he mean a person of not high stature and a person of higher stature?
Misvara, I would say that it's a kid.
I would say kid also.
Oh.
Yeah, like, I've definitely heard like stories that people have had of like traumatic experiences where like they were a kid and basically like something happened where they got like very embarrassed.
Right.
And it's just like.
Right, meaning the same
Yeah.
phenomenon occurs to a kid, and therefore why would the halacha limit it?
Yeah.
And especially given the idea that we were saying, Torah holds this usher to murder a kid, right? So like, why would there be a differentiation in terms of social murdering? V'lo yikra lo b'shem shu bosh mimenu. A person should not call him a name that he is ashamed of. V'lo yisaper lefanav davar shu bosh mimenu. He shouldn't say in front of him something that he's ashamed of. Yeah. Right. So that actually clarifies something that, yeah. That actually clarifies something that I get questions about a lot in that Hilchos Tshuva thing. When we go through the list of the stuff that you lose your Chelek Olam Haba for, or the things that Chazal. So the Rambam says there's 24 things that you lose your Chelek Olam Haba for in terms of categories, right? Then he says. There are some averot that are less than this. And nevertheless, the Chachamim said that one who is accustomed in them, habituated in them, has no portion of olam haba. And they said this to distance you from them and to warn you about them. These are they. Someone who comes up with a nickname for his friend. And someone who calls his friend by his nickname. Oh, so this is also interesting now. One who embarrasses his fellow in public. One who takes pride in the degradation of his friend. One who degrades one who degrades his rabbis. One who degrades holidays. One who deprecates kachim. So you know what's the problem here? You catch it?
It has a few different types of embarrassment.
That's true, but there's also a different qualification that contradicts what we just read in Hilchos Deios. In Hilchos Deios, he makes it sound like here, number one, he's saying that you still have a chelek olam haba, and that Chazal just say you don't in order to distance you from them, and it is people who are ragil bahen, people who are accustomed to do it. So this Deos one seems to be not to be taken literally. In other words, it's not like we thought where you embarrass someone in public once and then you lose a chelek olam haba. It's if you habitually abuse or socially degrade your fellow, embarrass your fellow, then that's really bad. But it doesn't seem like it actually affects the chelek olam haba. So that answers the question. Yeah.
Well, it makes sense based on what we're saying, because if you're habitually doing it, then that's something that's like a part of like your
Yeah.
outlook.
Exactly. Yeah. So what we said before is further clarified by what we just read,
Yeah.
but it's not the point where you lose your faith. The reason why I actually went here though was to say that whenever I read this halacha about the nickname, whenever I talk about this in high school, people say like I can't like call my friend like Sarah, sorry, like or something, So I think if we read both Rambams in concert, like it's a nickname that he's embarrassed by, not any nickname, because obviously we call people by nicknames,
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Fine.
You gotta call everyone by their full name all the time.
Yeah, birth certificate. Show me your birth certificate, and then I will address you. Yeah. Okay. So now he says in Ches Gimel, back in Deos, Bamei Devarim Amurim. When do we say that it's also to embarrass someone? Bidvarim shebein adam lachavera. That's someone who that's in matters between bein adam lachavera, interpersonal matters. About b'divrei shemayim, but in matters of heaven, which presumably is a reference being adam lamakom. Im lo chazar lo b'seser. If he does not do tshuva in private, machlimin oso barabim, then we shame him in public, right? So this is the public shaming that I was talking about before. Umafarsin min cheto. We publicize his sin. Umacharfin oso bifanav, and we insult him to his face. Umavadin, and we degrade him. Umakalolin, and we curse him. Ad sheyachzor lemutav, until he returns to the good. K'moshe atu kol hanavim liYisrael, like all the Nevi'im did with Israel, right? So this is what I said we don't do anymore, right?
Yeah, I think
and this is socially frowned upon. So there are two ways in which we don't do this. We don't do the Mitzvah of Tochachah. One is we don't, like, what would you say the practice, like practically speaking, the way people implement the Mitzvah of Tochachah nowadays? Like, what are the guidelines basically?
people be like, hey, that's not okay.
For everything?
What do you say?
For everything? What?
Definitely depends on the thing.
Depends on the thing, right? Depends on the thing, it depends on the person. I think it's like the guidelines, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then when they say it once, I don't think they do it again, maybe once or twice, but they don't do it until they get hit. And then they don't, or they shouldn't, people know that you shouldn't publicly shame someone, Yeah. So like, how do we make sense of the fact that like Klal Yisroel is not keeping this to right? You could just say that we're all sinners, but like,
Should we read one more?
oh yeah, one more. Yeah, okay, one more. Misha chata alav chavero. When a person, someone who was sinned against by his fellow, v'lo ratza lahochifa, and he does not want to rebuke him. Yeah, this is important. V'lo lodaber lo klum, and he doesn't want to rebuke him or speak to him at all. Mipnei shahaya hachote. So this is like someone sins against me, and I don't want to rebuke the guy, and I don't want to speak to him at all. Mipnei shahaya hachote hedyot biyoser, because the sinner is exceedingly idiot. Right, is I don't know, a commoner, right? A dullard. I don't know how you want to say it. There's no real good way to translate. I mean, it comes from the same word as idiot, right? But yeah, it does. Yeah, idiotes. Yeah. But I don't know what the original term idiot meant. I think it's like an amaretz, like in the Greek. Like it's I only know this from Epictetus. Is the idiotes is the opposite of philosophos. Or his mind is scrambled, confused. And so I forgive him in my heart. But I also am not holding in hatred. And I don't rebuke him. So that is midas chasidus. That's the one way you can get out of rebuking. Become a chassid, right? In other words, if you don't rebuke your fellow because you forgive him because of his simplicity or whatever, so then that's a good thing. It's so what?
Pretentious.
If you do it pretentiously, then that's also probably bad. I forgive thee. Yeah. What?
Very stuck.
Yeah. In the which sense? The capital S or the lower? Yeah, the real sense. Yeah. Right. Meaning, yeah, I forgive the guy. Like, Yeah.
And also like recognizing that people have like hang-ups.
Yes. Exactly. Yeah. Why? Okay, fine. So I said, Lo hikida Torah el hamathema. The Torah is only makbid on the one who harbors hatred. Again, tying it together to Lo Sita. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it seemed like the Mitzvah of Tochachah was for their good. The thing is for their good, but if you're not feeling upset, then you don't have.
That's not what he's saying.
Yeah.
Read it again.
No.
Not what he's saying.
And they're head yotes.
Yes, they're head yotes or their minds are confused. Meaning,
You think they're
presumably,
not
if you
like accepting halacha?
they're not going to learn from it. They're not going to gain from it. You know.
But it's like they're not
What are you
capable.
saying?
Yeah, they're not capable of it. Right. Right. Yeah.
They're not capable. Like yeah. It's not
Yeah.
that
Meaning,
not
if they're a Talmid Chacham and you forgive them, you still have to rebuke them if they can, if because it's for their good. Not Talmid Chacham. I'm saying as an example, like if the person's Talmid Chacham, you know.
When you say head yoke, you mean someone that's not using the halacha.
Yeah, I think it just means like a common person, you know. Yeah. Obviously, it's on a case-to-case basis, you know. Like you could be a head yoke regarding, like I remember a story, an incident that, what was it? Yeah, so I was at, I won't say who it was. We were at shul, and it was one of my rabbim, and he saw this guy who he didn't know in shul, whose tzitzit were broken in a way that made it puzzle. You know, the guy was wearing a talis that was puzzle. You know, so my Rebbe like agonized over whether to tell him or not, because we do say in certain cases, don't rebuke him. Mutav shiyu shogeg v'al yihu mazid. Better that the guy be over b'shogeg than know about it and then like be over b'mazid. And all this guy had to do was just take off his talis. You know, like borrow one and like so finally like my Rebbe decided to go and like mention like you're wearing a talis as puzzle. The guy just shrugged and like went on, like didn't take off his talis, you know. So like you think that it's like easy to review, but the guy's a head yot. He doesn't really like, you know. Now maybe that guy's a head yot in terms of like talis, but maybe when it comes to another area, like then he's not a head yot. And I know the Rambam doesn't say this, but I feel like Daito Mishubeshus certainly can be in limited areas. We all know that people are insane when it comes to certain things, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
Those are head yoke views.
Head yot biosa, that's also true. That's a good point. Yeah.
Not just get head yoke.
Yeah. Yeah, look at the footnote guy. He agrees. Adam Pashut, a simple man, Pashut Adam, right? Shechet o eno ko pogea. I don't know what ko. He doesn't. His fate doesn't affect him. He's just like not fate conscious, you know. So this might answer our question partially about like why don't we do this mitzvah nowadays?
We're all head yoke.
Yeah, it's like that. Maybe there's a stam assumption that the stam Jew is a head yot. Now, and I want to say that doesn't pepper from the mitzvah altogether. But like obviously we would do tochachah to someone who we either know.
He's saying that mina chasunas are not.
Right, so we're makbid. Yeah. I mean, look, I think my theory as to why we don't do this anymore is there is a statement of Chazal which. The Meiri does say this, by the way. I know this is not Meiri Bekius. That would be for next year. Oh, we're replacing Meiri, by the way. Yeah, I'm just kidding. That he says, he quotes Chazal, just like it's a mitzvah to say something that will be heeded, so too it's a mitzvah to not say something that will not be heeded. And if you have reason to suspect that the person is not going to listen to you, then you don't say it, you know? And there's some Gemara that people have quoted to me. I just have not seen it inside, nor have I looked, which is nowadays, and it's in the Gemara apparently, nowadays there's no one left who knows how to give tochachah. Nowadays there's no one left who knows how to give receive tochachah, you know? Yeah.
Yes, it's more than anything.
Okay, nice.
Well, in inside.
Yeah.
Okay.
Someone shows me inside at some point. So like I think we're in a culture, like here's the analogy I would give, okay, that in the military, right? If you see your fellow Marine, and his button is done wrong or his shoe is not shined, you call him out on it and he corrects it and he thanks you, because there is this culture where we are makpid on every aspect of the rule and on decorum and duty and service. And if you had that in Klal Yisroel, then people would do this and it would be acceptable to do this. But now we're in an era where like people don't relate to halakha this way and they take things personally and like they don't care about the halakhic system. And therefore it's going to be seen as interpersonal, like holier than thou, critique and stuff like that. And then you add America to the mix where like, who are you to tell me what to do? And then like, it makes things even worse. Yeah.
How do you square that with the first halakha? It's about rebuking a person until he actually hits you.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. It's like and again, by the way, just to clarify, I'm not saying that what I'm saying is what the Rambam says. I don't think the Rambam would be happy with how we are right now. Maybe he would extend the Hediyot thing like a theorist. I'm just saying, like, can we be Melamed Zchus on Klal Yisroel and on all of us that we don't do this? And I'm saying that in a culture where people care about halacha so much, that like you really have to go to the nth degree into the point where the guy hits you. So then that's what you have to do, like for your fellow Jew. Like you would stop a person, if a person was going to ingest poison ice cream, then you would stop him from doing it, even if the guy hit you. Like if he's going to drink poison, but we just don't relate to halacha that way, unfortunately.
Then wouldn't that definitely depend on who the person is?
And I still am saying that. I'm just saying that what's changed is the default assumption that if you have a friend who you can rebuke, that there's a chance that they're going to change, then you should do that. You're chayav to do that, and maybe even until they hit you. I don't know, What are you going to say?
I don't
How do we combat the mentality of that everyone has right now?
Yeah, like we don't care about we're not, I don't know, like,
Right. Yeah. So the only way I know how to. Whoa! I forgot that this is not attached. The only way I know how to do it is like within your own small circle. Then you can change the culture in your own small circle. Like let's say like in yeshiva, one thing I do think that we're really good about is that when it comes to halacha, no one takes things personally. Like if you go up and you like point out that someone is not keeping the halacha in their like, I don't know, in their the way, if they're the shliach tzibur and they're not keeping a certain halacha, I think we have a culture here where people are totally fine. They don't take it personally, and like, and you can do that like among your friends, you can do that among your household, yeah.
But I mean, I think it depends on the community, but I think there are definitely, I think there are some communities where I think everything the Rambam says would be in effect. Right.
I don't, unfortunately. I don't think that there are. I think that I mean, maybe I'm just pessimistic about the Jewish people, but I think there are communities where people will do that for kashrus, but they won't do it for tax evasion, or they'll do it for like being mocked on Balkora, but they'll harbor child abusers. Like I don't know of a community that is just like they're mocking on every aspect of halacha that everyone's just completely gracious. Maybe one exists, that'd be great.
Well, I think it's not just talking about being gracious. I think it's just saying I think the thing that you're saying is that if a person doesn't care about halacha in that type of way, but I think a person can have a blind spot in.
Yeah, well, clearly because he's hitting you.
Yeah.
Right. Clearly, he has a blind spot.
Yeah, but I'm saying but then he's having this. If a person has let's say you have a community where people care about halacha in general.
Yeah.
But they have a blind spot about tax evasion.
Yeah.
Then this seems like exactly the type of thing that he's talking about.
Right.
That then you keep pushing them until they like they get angry and hit you.
Yeah. I hope that there's a community like that, where that's the normal thing. I just don't know. Maybe I'm not optimistic. Yeah. One last thing. I just saw a good example of Tochachah, which I'm not going to read because I can't bring it up right now. I don't remember where I found it, but the what do you call it? There's a recent school that I saw yesterday that the principal said that a kid was hit on a scooter. Like on near the school, and he says there's been too much of this, and he says he's not one who likes to impose like personal policies on people that are not necessary, but he I forgot how he did it, but he banned ownership of scooters from the students in his school. He says he thinks it's a preconious nefashos issue, and like he spoke out against it. And I'm sure there are gonna be people who even argue against that. And like, we're talking about like kids losing their lives, and like, but I thought that was you need a certain amount of bravery to like engage in Tochachah, and there's a lot of repercussions, Yeah.
That's interesting. It seems like that was like sort of him making it easier.
Yeah, it's not towards Tochachah about a specific person.
Right.
Yeah.
But that is kind of an interesting way to look at like Rabban making gezeros.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point, right? I mean, it's he says the Nevi'im did it, and like that, that's not Nevi'im didn't do it with specific people. I mean, except when they did. Yeah. All right, let's stop here. Before we stop, is it reasonable that we'll finish tomorrow?
I think so.
Yeah. Right. Wait, how many halachos are there? Yeah. Right. So let us. Oh yeah, it's just these few halachos. So let's plan to finish, and then maybe we'll look into your question that you asked about how Bein Adam L'Chavero contributes to Yediat Hashem. If I find it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
All right. Let's stop here.